Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back. We're waiting for the tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the internets before we go ahead and get started. We've got some end of the week business to attend to. Our final Friday before our new president is swept into office. We're excited about that. But before we jump into things, we want to make sure the tubes are working. Sometimes they don't work right away, and sometimes they do. We're hopeful that it kicks over any minute now. Hello, my friends. It is a beautiful Friday. Welcome back. I hope that your week has been amazing and incredible. Let me give you a preview on what's coming up on the best live stream of the week that we've done here so far. We've got some inauguration news to take a look at, because what's happening here is they're moving inside. And so we've got President Trump taking everybody inside the Capitol. We'll take a look at what the latest is, because there are some interesting announcements, including this concept that the village people are going to be there. So a lot is happening this weekend. The weather is going to be cold, cold, cold. I've got the most recent forecast out from Washington, D.C. A lot of our friends are heading over there. We know that Garrett Ziegler's over there. We know Adam Johnson's over there. Brick Suit's over there. Good Logic's going over there. And so we got an update on what's happening with the inauguration, because Byron Donalds is also excited about it. 3 days and counting, my friends. And if you're going to be joining us at our inauguration watch party live in person in Scottsdale, we'll be excited to see you there. We also have the digital pass, which is now available as well. We'll tell you more about that later. But some more coming in here from Trump, a little update on the TikTok stuff, and then we'll turn our attention to the final Friday of Joe Biden, because he is now attempting to say there's a whole new amendment, calling it the 28th Amendment, that it just is now part of the law. Well, it turns out it's not even close. The National Archivist came out and responded to this saying, you can't just do that, you demented lunatic. You can't just add amendments. But he's affirming it. He's saying, well, the State Bar of Florida or something says that you can do it, and so he's going to do it. So we'll see. Obviously, it's not real, but that's how demented they are. Then we'll turn our attention to what's happening in Fani land, because you can see this is out of the Supreme Court of Georgia, and we've got Trump's defense submitting their response in opposition to Fani Willis's appeal. She's trying to stay on the case after the Court of Appeals threw her off for being corrupt. So Steve Sadow, Jennifer Little, and others now responding in the Supreme Court saying, Fani, you're done. Stop it. What are you doing? You've lost. Get out of here. Now, Fani's upset about it. We'll see what Ashley Merchant says. Fani's threatening to sue Fulton County, and we'll see if that goes anywhere. And then we'll round out the day with some Kristi Noem updates, because she was testifying today to be the new DHS secretary, and we're looking forward to some actual competency over there. So I got two clips of her, one from that senator and another one from Ron Johnson, saying, how do you purge? How do you root out the DHS employees who opened up our border? Great question. We'll see what her answer is. And so as you can see, bunch of fun stuff to get to today. We're very glad and grateful that you're here and with us. Before we get into the business of the day, you know what we got to talk about? Protecting your home, because there are over $32 trillion in equity that's available for American homeowners. That's how much they've got. And now cyber criminals are targeting it with a growing scam called house stealing. FBI even talks about this. House alarms, doorbell cameras, deadbolts, they're not going to work against these thieves because they're after your equity. And if your title isn't being monitored, scammers can transfer the title of your home into their name with a one-page simple document. They file with the county, then they take loans against that title, even sell it behind your back. It's a nightmare. Now, the scariest part, you're not going to find out about it until collection comes or foreclosure notices start showing up on your door. Then you're in the middle of a financial and a legal nightmare. And so the best way to protect your equity, triple lock protection from our friends over at Home Title Lock. You see them right there on your screen. Triple lock protection, 24/7 monitoring, alert you of any changes, and God forbid if the worst happens, no out-of-pocket cost to you for restoration services. And so the question for you, when was the last time you checked your title? If you're like me, the answer is never, and that's exactly what scammers are counting on. And so you can check on your home title today, get a free title history report and a 30-day free trial of triple lock protection today. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, use promo code Robert Govea, my full name, or just click the link in the description below. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Robert Govea is the promo code, HomeTitleLock.com, to protect your home title. And thanks to Home Title Lock for sponsoring today's show. Now, we've got some more business to attend to today, and we're starting off with the inauguration. It's going to be cold out there on January 20th when number 47 is sworn in and gives us his inaugural address. We see that the president posted this telling us January 20th cannot come fast enough. Everybody, even those that initially opposed a victory by President Donald J. Trump and the Trump administration, they just want it to happen already. Now, it's my obligation, says the president, to protect the people of our country. But before we even begin, we have to think of the inauguration itself. The weather forecast for D.C. with the wind chill factor could take temperatures into severe record lows. There is an Arctic blast sweeping across the country. I don't want to see people hurt or injured in any way. It is dangerous conditions for the tens of thousands of law enforcement, first responders, police canines, and even horses, and hundreds of thousands of supporters that will be outside for many hours on the 20th. And in any event, if you decide to come, dress warmly. Therefore, I have ordered the inauguration address, in addition to prayers and other speeches, to be delivered in the United States Capitol Rotunda, as was used by Ronald Reagan in 1985, also because of very cold weather. And Ronald Reagan was also shot at one point. Remember that? The various dignitaries and guests will be brought into the Capitol. This will be a very beautiful experience for all, and especially for the large TV audience. We will open Capital One Arena on Monday for live viewing of this historic event. So if you're planning on going, if you got a ticket and you're not going to be joining us at our inauguration watch party live in Scottsdale, then you may be able to go inside the Capitol and be warmer there. Trump says they're also going to host the presidential parade in the Capitol building. So I will join the crowd at Capital One after my swearing in. All other events will remain the same, including the victory rally on Sunday at 3 p.m. Doors open 1 p.m. Please arrive early. And all 3 inaugural balls on Monday evening. Everyone will be safe. Everyone will be happy. And we will together make America great again, from the president. And he's showing us what some of these wind chills look like. And there's an interesting parallel conversation happening with this. Dan Bongino and others are very excited, or I would say maybe not excited, but they're happy with the fact that Trump is being moved inside because they have gotten information from their sources that there are threats to Trump and the new incoming administration. Vance, I'm sure, is on that list too. So seems like it might be a little safer in addition to a little warmer, which is good news. Here's what D.C. said about it. They're even declaring a cold emergency ahead of the inauguration events. And I've seen some lunatic liberals on X saying, oh, Trump wants to take people inside because he's not going to have a crowd, stuff like that, right? So you're going to see that materialize from lunatics, and just be clear, it is friggin' freezing over there.
Welcome back. As Mike has been telling you, freezing temperatures are expected in D.C. on Monday. That, of course, is President Trump's second inaugural, and now officials are pleading with people, get ready for the cold. Tom Fitzgerald's live at the Capitol tonight. Fitz, I'm going to go back to my sports days a little bit. Weather could certainly be a factor here.
Cliche accepted, and in this case, it's absolutely correct. 7:30 this morning, the District of Columbia issued a cold weather emergency. Now, that does mean that they're going to increase shelter capacity for people who are out on the street. But make no mistake, we have thousands of people coming from here around the country for these inaugural festivities, and because of that, local officials are not taking any chances with this cold weather. You have to go all the way back 40 years to the inauguration of Ronald Reagan, the second one, where it was 7 degrees air temperatures. They wound up canceling the outdoor oath of office, moving everything inside the rotunda. They couldn't even hold the inaugural parade. Now, we're not accepting temperatures that bad on Monday. But look, this is no joke. Appearing on Fox 5 this morning, Mayor Bowser told Fox 5 that people need to prepare and layer up in this weather Monday. DC Fire and EMS say they are ready to help those who wind up in a little bit of trouble because of this cold.
We do believe it's going to be very cold. So everybody coming to the inaugural activities, especially for the parade, to watch the swearing in, please, please, please dress accordingly.
You know, we want people to be prepared. So the first thing is dressing for the weather. So making sure they're wearing layers, planning ahead, gloves, scarves, hats.
All right. Well, you know, the situation is also secure.
What was he doing? He was pushing that guy out of frame. Did you see that?
All right. Well, you know, the situation is also a security concern. There are thousands of law enforcement officials that are going to be in here in the nation's capital over the next couple of days. They are going to be out in these conditions as well. Officers are going to need regular rotations to get in and out of the cold while they are on these patrols. Also, this is especially going to be dangerous, according to Fox 5's chief meteorologist Tucker Barnes, to the people who are not used to these types of temperatures.
Very dangerous. Exposed skin after 20 or 30 minutes will start to exhibit signs of frostbite, and you're going to have to really protect yourself. Lots of layers.
We do have to build that into our plan. How do we make sure that we're taking care of our folks? Because look, if someone is going to be freezing cold for 14 hours standing on a post, they're really not going to be that effective after a while.
Fox 5 spoke to Dr. Katie Bird. She is a emergency room physician at MedStar Montgomery Medical Center. She says she's dealt with people with hypothermia. You have to take this seriously. Layer up with your clothing. It could lead to issues like cardiac problems, even neurological issues if you're not careful.
Yeah, we don't want any more neurological issues in this country. We've got plenty of them we're trying to recover from. So, all right, good report there. You can see they are nervous about it, and there's a good reason for that. Remember, this morning on our Locals members only YouTube stream, we were talking about the length of the presidential inaugural speech. And I thought Trump might come out and give a burner, like 45, 50 minutes or something like that. But that's not really how this works. It's usually shorter. Trump's last speech was 16 minutes. We looked it up. Not long. And with good reason, because the last person who spoke a lot during a 2-hour speech was President William Henry Harrison, who died out of pneumonia after pneumonia. He was out there, gave 2-hour barn burner, no coat, no hat. Temperature was freezing. He died later. So just bring everybody inside and it'll be nice. So they're doing that. Now, meanwhile, the Village people are going to be partying hard in DC, which is hysterical. So I don't know what's going on. Others decided that they're going to be there. Here's the story. Says Village people will perform at Trump's inauguration amid an ongoing feud between the singer and the founding members. So the same YMCA getup that Trump would do on the campaign trail, going to be happening again soon. The 73-year-old singer on Monday announced the Village people had accepted an invitation from the Trump campaign to perform at the inaugural celebrations next week. They objected to the use of the music, but Willis will be the only founding member to participate, and they're going to come and do their thing. So that's going to be interesting to watch as well. Now, Byron Donalds shared this video. He's excited about the inauguration, as we all are. Says, you did the work, you knocked the doors, you made the phone calls, you talked to family and friends, and you showed up for America on November 5th. And in 3 days, your work will become reality. We are the greatest political movement in American history, and we couldn't have done it without you. Here is this from Byron.
I figured I'd come by and one, just get a good look at the plane, because hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months.
Coming soon to a theater near you.
JD, it is going to be your plane. Wow, that's good audio. 3 days. The best is yet to come. Okay, so that's what Byron posted. Man, that's a fun one. It's interesting to see that from Byron. So he posted that, and we're keeping our eye on what else is happening. So the TikTok decision just came down from the Supreme Court. We talked about this morning, so we'll have a segment on it coming out later. But the Supreme Court decision was expected, says Trump. And I think we got that from the oral arguments. And everyone must respect it. My decision on TikTok will be made in the not too distant future, but I must have time to review the situation. And so stay tuned. So I've seen some conflicting reports on this today. I've seen that the AP was reporting the Biden administration is not going to enforce it. And then I've also read that the DOJ is thrilled about this and they're ready to enforce it, which is, of course, what the DOJ would say. But they're not going to be in charge anymore on the 20th, and the deadline for TikTok is on the 19th. So maybe they shut down for a day and then they reopen back up under a new DOJ. We'll see. But Trump commented on it, and we'll keep our eye on that one. Now, another interesting thing that's been happening is the billionaires have been hanging out with President Trump and going and having conversations with him. We've already seen this litany of oligarchs, as Bernie Sanders would call them, going to meet the president. Bezos and Zuck flipped. They got like neck whiplash. They reversed so hard. They're like, like Zuckerberg, are you okay? Do you need a neck brace for that, brother? Because he's like now MAGA fever. He can't get enough of it. So I don't know what happened, but now Bill Gates is also joining the team. And he shared this. Carly Bonney clipped this one for us and listen to Gates explain his dinner with Trump.
Have you met with Donald Trump since the election?
Yeah, I had a chance to go have a long and actually quite intriguing dinner with him.
What did you discuss? What was intriguing?
Well, we touched on a lot of things. It was over 3 hours to my surprise.
Wow.
It was, just he and I, his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and the person who helps manage things for me, Larry Cohen. So the four of us sat there, and it was quite wide-ranging. Global health's the area that I work in, and such amazing things have happened and can happen there. I spoke a lot about HIV and that the foundation's literally working on a cure for that. We're at an early stage, and so he, in the COVID days, accelerated the vaccine innovation. So I, was asking him if maybe the same kind of thing could be done here, and we both got, I think, pretty excited about that. We talked about polio, where we're very close to getting that done, but if you stop, it'll spread back. And so I explained why it's been tough in Pakistan, Afghanistan. We've had cases show up in Gaza. We have cases in Africa. And he was fascinated to hear what he could do to maximize the chance that during the next 4 years, that incredible milestone will be achieved. I felt like he was, energized and, looking forward to helping to drive innovation. I was frankly impressed with how well he showed a lot of interest in the issues I brought up.
Interesting conversation there. And look at Bill's little smirk there at the end. Watch those micro expressions on his face. Here you go.
Brought up.
Very curious. Now, who knows what Trump is doing? We know how he works with people, kind of brings them into the fold and then studies them astutely. But I don't know if Trump is going to be as excited as he was for vaccine technology after what happened last time, but we'll see. So Gates now meeting with Trump and smirking like an evil dictator. So that's happening. Now, another tech bro billionaire is also talking smack about the Democrats, and this is pretty interesting. So this is the guy called Sam Altman. You know him as the founder of OpenAI. I think maybe stole it from Elon, don't know. But ChatGPT is his baby, and he just got a letter from Elizabeth Warren, which is curious because she's that government oligarch who uses the government to put her disgusting, stinky boot on everybody's neck. And here is what she sent to Sam Altman, was a letter saying, hey, Mr. Altman, in the 2 months since Trump won, big tech companies like you have made $1 million gifts to President-elect Trump's inaugural fund in what appears to be an effort to influence and sway the policies. Specifically on December 13th, you said you would donate $1 million. Big tech companies have come under an increased scrutiny, blah, blah, blah. Now you have a clear interest and direct interest in obtaining favors from the incoming administration. Your company is already subject to a number of investigations. Amazon, which also donated $1 million to Trump, is the subject of multiple ongoing regulatory actions. FTC and the DOJ, because these people are just sick. Also, Apple donated $1 million. Tim Cook donated $1 million. Google donated $1 million. Meta donated $1 million. Microsoft, another $1 million. OpenAI, Sam Altman, and Uber dropped $1 million. So they say it's critical that we figure out what's going on. These donations raise questions about corruption and influence, and so therefore we ask you to provide the following response. Sam Altman, what's your rationale for these? Which individuals chose to make these? Was the board informed? Did officials with the company have any communications about this? So Senator Elizabeth Warren sending 5 smoke signal questions over to Sam Altman, and he's not taking kindly to it. He says, it's funny, but they never sent me one of these when I contributed to Democrats. So Elizabeth Warren still going after everybody. I wonder if they'll include this in the ChatGPT response when you search up Elizabeth Warren. She's a hack who sends hack emails. Maybe they should incorporate that into their little AI system. So that's the inauguration update. My friends who are going, make sure you are bundled up big time. You're not going to look dorky. Just bundle it up. Okay. Put it on. It's okay. It's fine. You'll look a little dorky, but it's okay. You have to do it. Warm up. Don't get frostbite. And we'll be celebrating with you from afar in Scottsdale, Arizona, live in person. And we'd love to have you come join us if you're looking for a place to celebrate this historic day with the president digitally. We're going to be watching it live on the big screen. Tickets are available. WatchYourLodge.com. Links in the description wherever you're watching this. And we have our digital pass now available too, which means we'll open up the cameras before and end them after we're done live streaming the inauguration live in person in Scottsdale. So check it out. WatchYourLodge.com. And we'll look forward to seeing you there or back here for the historic number 47. And a quick show note on this one. If you want your name printed on your badge, you got to get your tickets by the end of the day today. Otherwise, we might have to Sharpie it. So just a little show note. All right, so that's what's happening with President Trump. Now, meanwhile, we have the current demented president who's going to be exiting soon. And here is his final effort. Joe Biden just made up an amendment, and he's now trying to add it to the Constitution. The problem is it's not real. He thinks it is, but like many things that he thinks are real, it's not. Here's what C-SPAN said of the president. He said, today I affirm the Equal Rights Amendment. He says, it's cleared all the necessary hurdles, and it's going to be added to the U.S. Constitution. What? Now. The Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land. Now. It's the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. Now. As you can see, C-SPAN reporting, this is what Joe said.
Just over 100 years ago, a pioneering group of women proposed the Equal Rights Amendment to enshrine the principles of gender equality in our Constitution. Throughout my career, I've been clear. No one should be discriminated against based on their sex. And in order for the amendment to be ratified, it requires 3/4 of the states to ratify it. That benchmark was passed when Virginia ratified the ERA a few years ago. Today, I affirm the Equal Rights Amendment to have cleared all the necessary hurdles to be added to the U.S. Constitution now.
Wrong.
The Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land.
No, it is not. The National Archivist disagrees with you.
It's the 28th Amendment to the Constitution now.
No, it isn't. No, it is not. He keeps saying it, but it's not.
I consulted.
They just love labels so much. They just slap a certain pronoun on somebody, and it doesn't even matter what's between their legs. Doesn't matter. He just says, oh, there's an amendment to the Constitution. We said, no, there's not. There's nothing between your legs there. That's not, it doesn't exist. Oh, yes, it does, because I said so. He said it 3 times. The problem with this is his own National Archivist has come out and has explained it's not real, Joe. Sorry. They came out right after he posted this, and they posted this. Statement on the Equal Rights Amendment, Tuesday, December 17, 2024. So this was before. Okay, so this is before he came out with this announcement. My dates were wrong. But here, this is the explanation as to why this is not real. The Archivist of the United States, just not long ago, right, when Joe was still the president, released the following statement on this and how this works, like a month ago. She said, you cannot do this. He just did it. As archivist and deputy archivist, it's our responsibility to uphold the integrity of constitutional amendment process and ensure that changes to the Constitution are carried out in accordance with the law. At this time, the Equal Rights Amendment cannot be certified as part of the Constitution due to established legal and judicial procedural decisions. They said again, in 2020 and 2022, the Office of Legal Counsel affirmed that the ratification deadline established by Congress is valid and enforceable. So you have an end date. The OLC concluded that extending or removing the deadline requires a new action by Congress or the courts. Court decisions at both the district and the circuit levels have affirmed that the ratification deadlines established by Congress for the ERA are valid. They're deadlines. Therefore, the archivist of the United States cannot legally publish the Equal Rights Amendment. As the leaders of the National Archives, we will abide by these legal precedents and support the constitutional framework in which we operate. The role of the archivist of the United States is to follow the law as it stands, ensuring the integrity of our nation's governing institutions. Personal opinion or beliefs are not relevant. As the leaders of the National Archives, we support the established legal processes and decisions. And so we will continue to serve with transparency and integrity as we move forward in addressing this and all matters related to our Constitution. So, as of a month ago to the day, actually, President Biden's own archivist says, you're wrong. And he just came out and said, no, I'm not. And here's why. He says, today I'm affirming what I've long believed and what 3/4 of the states have ratified. The 28th Amendment is the law of the land, guaranteeing all Americans equal rights and protection under the law, regardless of their sex. Now, Community Notes says, wrong, bucko. They actually enroll the new amendments. They say, it's not valid. And watch this. Here's how they support this. They published this after, okay, so there was pushback. Joe Biden came out and said, here's a statement. I have supported the Equal Rights Amendment for more than 50 years, and I have long been clear that no one should be discriminated against based on their sex. We as a nation must affirm and protect women's full equality once and for all. Bro, what is a woman? Do you know? Your party has no friggin' idea. You can't even define it. On January 27th, 2020, the Commonwealth of Virginia became the 38th state to ratify. The American Bar Association, which is a private entity, not a government entity, it's just some private company, has recognized that the Equal Rights Amendment has cleared all necessary hurdles to be formally added to the Constitution. No one cares what they say. They're not a government body. I agree with the ABA. And so it's like, you could pick a random blogger, okay, it would have the same amount of authority. With leading legal constitutional scholars, maybe he did. Maybe he picked Judge Ludwig or Ludwig. An Equal Rights Amendment has become part of our Constitution. It is long past due that we recognize the will of the American people. In keeping with my oath, I affirm what I believe, and what 3/4 of the states have ratified is that the 28th Amendment is the law of the land. So the guy just breaks the law everywhere he goes. He doesn't enforce the border. He steals all of our money for foreign countries and then forgets that money was sent over to them and they send more. Then now he just makes up amendments to the Constitution. These are the people who are so concerned about the downfall of American democracy. Biden just lectured us about an oligarchical class, and now he's just adding amendments that literally a month ago, his own archivist says, you can't do this, you lunatic. Here's the documents if you want to read more about it. Ratification of Equal Rights Amendment, stipulation, press statement, U.S. Senate confirmation hearing, and more. They say it's not real, but Joe Biden is so brain dead that they can't figure it out or care. And he just comes out and screams it. So it must be true. That's our president gone in days. All right. And we turn our attention to Fani land and to Georgia. And here is this story. Fani gets reamed by Trump's defense team. You can see this was filed in the Supreme Court of Georgia. Fani, who was thrown off of the Trump prosecution after her lover was thrown off the Trump prosecution, is now desperately trying to get back on the case. And so she took her dismissal back up to the Supreme Court and filed a petition in Georgia saying, please hear my case and put me back on. Well, here's what Trump's team has sent in response. They're opposing Fani's petition to have this case heard by Georgia. And our good friend, Stephen H. Sadow in the House, Georgia bar attorney, and he did a great job along with Ashley Merchant and others back during the disqualification hearings. But this is now knocking on the door of the Supreme Court of Georgia. And there's some good stuff inside, a little legalese here because we're zooming out asking about this question. Fani's big defense has been, I didn't know what I did was bad, so you can't disqualify me because I didn't know it was bad. It's that George Costanza defense. Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? Yeah, you know, Fani, you're a prosecutor. You're held to a higher standard. You're not supposed to be paying your special counsel and then sleeping with him and then texting and calling him and doing all sorts of Lord knows what. So here now, Fani is making this argument. There was no clear standard. And since there was no clear standard, you can't make one up and then penalize me. It's like a notice problem. So here's what Trump's defense says in response. The Court of Appeals decision, Georgia Supreme Court, held that the disqualification remedy that was fashioned by Judge McAfee, you remember him, it didn't cure Fani's appearance of significant impropriety. So Fani's original penalty was she only had to kick her boyfriend out. Then the Court of Appeal says that's not good enough. Her actual conduct was bad, and thus the trial court, Judge McAfee, abused his discretion when he didn't disqualify her too. And that's exactly right. That's what we were screaming from the beginning. And McAfee acted cowardly. And we know why, because he had an election coming up. But he got lied to in his face in his own courtroom and sat there and took it from Fani. Pathetic. That remedy, holding by the Court of Appeals, was both narrow and straightforward. The trial court's forced disqualification, either Fani disqualifies her lover, her former lover romantic partner, or herself. The Court of Appeals says that is not adequate. Then, once the Court of Appeals threw her off, Fani came back and says, what? This is the creation of a new disqualification standard, Your Honors, and this is an upheaval of our review. Trump's defense says that's ridiculous. The Court of Appeals didn't do that. They didn't create a new standard that you didn't know of. Don't be nuts. They say, listen, when we're talking about whether the case should be heard by the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals didn't misapply anything. And so you shouldn't hear this. You should only hear cases when there was an error. And guess what? The Court of Appeals didn't make an error. In fact, the appearance of impropriety, the continuum standard, was conduct-based. And the fact that there was actual impropriety, it mandated disqualification. So there was no new case that came up. This Blumenfield versus Borenstein decision told us, if there's conduct-based actual impropriety, you got to be disqualified. Fani was disqualified. And Roman also noted that an appearance of impropriety may disqualify a prosecutor. And Willis's rare specific conduct moved this case from the middle of the continuum to the portion where disqualification is mandated. So you might do something bad. Did you get a parking ticket? Okay, because you parked illegally, maybe we won't disqualify you from that. But if you stole $700,000, gave them to your corrupt lover, and went on multiple cruises to Belize and other things and got benefits from his payments, that's corruption. And so the only remedy that can purge the taint, oh, here it comes, get ready for your bingo cards, of impropriety. This case is tainted, man, lots of taint here. The state's petition is incorrect, says Trump's defense. Fani, when she took this to the Court of Appeals, in fact, the Court of Appeals did not need to define any of these arguments, like what the word rare means. Why? Why do they not need to define rare? Because this whole case is insane. The factual circumstances underlying this case are simply unprecedented, okay? It's incongruent with the rules. This is rare conduct, and significant appearance of impropriety is not likely to recur because she's engaged in this unprofessional conduct before. It's unlikely she's going to do so in the future, and no Georgia court has ever been faced with this like her. So without likelihood to reoccur, Roman is unlikely to set precedent, and so it's not precedent, okay? Going into this, there is a significant appearance of impropriety when you consider it with her conduct. And so, in other words, there's not a new standard that's being created. We've already gone through this. We've already identified where she falls on the spectrum, and the Court of Appeals corrected what McAfee did wrong. Now, contrary to Fani's claims, In a correct application of the abuse of discretion review, the majority gave the legally appropriate deference to the trial court. So there's two things that we're asking about, two different standards that are running in parallel here. One is the standard by which Fani should be disqualified. Is it an appearance of impropriety? Is it a significant appearance of impropriety? Is it odor of mendacity? What is the standard? Or should it be much higher, like actual known discovered conflict of interest, not just an appearance of impropriety? Where is the standard? Fani says it should be much higher. Now, the other standard that we're talking about is more of a legal concept, but it's at what level and on what basis can the higher court even review the lower court? They can't just generally just review anything they want anytime, whenever, for whatever reason. There are standards. So Fani is saying this doesn't meet the standard to even review McAfee's decision from the Court of Appeals, because the Court of Appeals threw Fani off, but McAfee at the district court kept Fani on. So Fani wants to revert back to the lower level decision, and she's saying that the Court of Appeals should have never even reviewed the case. And he says that's obviously not true. What is the standard? The majority found that outright disqualification of Willis was mandated by the significant appearance of impropriety and the stinky odor of mendacity that emanates out of every one of Fani's pores and her office building. That remained over this prosecution even after the trial court's remedy of forced disqualification of Wade. They said it's not good enough. And moreover, says Trump's defense, the state's adoption and wholesale reliance on the dissenting opinion also collapses. The dissent's three fatal errors are restricting the standard of review, misapplication of precedent, and incorrect understandings don't support the claims. And that's why Fani's petition should be denied. We got two simple questions here. Should this court deny discretionary review of the Court of Appeals based on the continuum conversation that they said mandated Fani's disqualification because there was a significant appearance of impropriety? Question one. And question two, should this court deny discretionary review of the Court of Appeals because of the abuse of discretion standard, right? So one, can we disqualify Fani? And two, should the higher courts hear the lower court's case? Here is where we get into some details. So Steve Sadow for Trump and his defense say, you should deny this. Don't listen to Fani. Fani lost fair and square. She shouldn't get another review. This is not a right. A petition is only granted in cases of great concern, gravity, or importance to the public. Fani's already lost. Even where there's an issue of a first impression, certiorari going to the Supreme Court is not the best mechanism. Saying disqualification of a public prosecutor for the appearance of impropriety is not an issue of first impression. It's not like Fani just got blindsided with this. I had no idea sleeping with my special counsel would be a problem. They must have office trainings about inter-office relationships and all that stuff. You got to disclose it to HR. I'm sure the other line prosecutors go through that crap. Now, the majority cited another case to apply Blumenfeld to specific conduct. They said there's a continuum in Georgia. And because Fani's conduct was the rare case, it mandates disqualification. And so now she can't just appeal this. Another former justice wrote, this court has emphasized a high standard for granting review. Fani can't just come and ask for permission to reverse this. She's got to have a good reason. And she doesn't. First, the Court of Appeals faithfully applied the continuum standard and they put the far end, saying this is disqualification. And second, this rare, yeah, it is rare. It's unprecedented, and this factual scenario is unlikely to recur, okay? Like other prosecutors would never think about even doing this. So it's not like we're challenging a law or something or setting new policy. It's like Fani acted like a lunatic, and no other prosecutor in their right mind will ever do this again. So we don't really need to set a broad rule because this is so crazy. And there is a significant appearance of impropriety that is conduct that makes it a legal basis to disqualify her. And then third, this remedy opinion, driven by complete deference to McAfee's undisputed findings of impropriety, correctly applied the abuse of discretion standard. And finally, the dissent also erred by restricting the abuse of discretion standard and more. Saying, look, No new standard was created here. Fani can't say, I didn't know this. It's not new. It's not like she was blindsided. The majority applied the continuum perfectly. There was no deviation at all. Not once. Fani is wrong. Roman did not usurp this court's authority. We did not create some new per se disqualification rule at all. All we did was apply a prior case to the facts here. As opposed to a per se rule, the majority made it clear they weren't making a blanket rule for all prosecutors. No, it's just for you, Fani, because only you acted like this. Also, coupled that with the fact that these were rare facts, also coupled with the fact that there was a significant finding of an appearance of impropriety, means the whole decision from McAfee is ineffective. Now, this block quote was the heart of the analysis, so we better read it. They say, listen, let's describe the spectrum. At one end of the scale, where disqualification is always justified, even mandated, even when balanced against a client's right to their attorney, right? You might even want your attorney, but if their conduct is so bad, you got to get them off. Even if you're like, but I like him, too bad. In these instances, it's clear that disqualification can be necessary for the protection of the client. Somewhere in the middle is impropriety based on part of the conduct on the attorney. And then there's other stuff that is not weighty enough to justify disqualification. Okay, so it's a spectrum. We get it. Now, the block quotation is the heart of this. Here, Fani, she was a public prosecutor. And that moves the remedy from the middle to the top of the continuum for disqualification. She is in a high position of power. She swears on oath. She wants to do whatever she wants, essentially, and say, I didn't know about it, and so there is no rules that would disqualify me. So they say, specifically, the majority moved the remedy up the continuum. Okay, we're going, should we not disqualify her or disqualify her? Here's what they found. The following facts were not even cross-appealed. Okay, so these are undisputed. Fani is not challenging these things, and so you can just take like a little checkbox, like a game. Each one of these is going to move this one more to the right for disqualification and aggravate that effort. So they say this appearance of impropriety was significant, right? Boom, one box over. More than a nebulous public interest was impacted, okay? Something more serious than just general grievances. One more over. Chief Judge Robert McBurney disqualified Fani during the special grand jury proceeding for naming Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones as a target after fundraising for the candidate that he was running against. Now, though DA Fani's disqualification was predicated upon extreme deference to McAfee, it should be noted that everyone in America, that's all of us, had a front row seat to the disqualification hearing because this hearing was transmitted live on national news across the country, and it was wild. One of the most insane legal proceedings we've ever covered here. Fani and like the Fulton County DA of the biggest county in Georgia lying to the judge's face about indicting her special prosecutor during lunch breaks, probably. So move the box over. Also, Fani continued to supervise and pay Wade during their romantic relationship. Disqualified. Substantial taxpayer funds, $700K plus, were paid to Willis's lover, Wade. They were used by her for trips. So she supervised and paid Wade, and then Wade would take her back on little cruises and trips to Napa Valley. They were used for her by trips and vacations without any verifiable reconciliation of the funds she claimed were reimbursed. Remember, she said she paid him back with cash, right? Fani also testified that Michael Roman's motion to disqualify her only cemented her relationship with Wade. They're like, we're under attack. We're going to get through this together. Come make out with me. Ugh. Wade also had an inaccurate interrogatory because he was lying because he was getting divorced. Indicated a willingness to wrongly conceal his relationship with Wade because he was cheating on his wife. And both Willis and Wade gave potentially untruthful testimony under oath. They committed perjury. And McAfee just sat there and took it at the disqualification hearing. And of course, number 9, perhaps the biggest, there is a monstrous odor of mendacity that remained over the proceedings. It stinks. bad. Taken together, according to the trial court, an outsider, according to McAfee, could reasonably think that Fani is not exercising her independent judgment in prosecuting Trump. Now, all that said, nonetheless, all that was there, okay? But the state is still so nuts, Fani's so crazy, they still incorrectly argue that the majority opinion failed to apply Blumenfeld. They said, what are you talking about? They just listed a bunch of things in their decision. To support its faulty premise, Fani distorts and misconstrues the majority statements of these undisputed factors. They said, took this case out of the continuum of cases to balance the argument. Now, but the state's argument is nothing more than a contrived misunderstanding of what they actually did. They didn't discard the continuum. They applied the continuum. They applied it to the rare facts and the significant appearance of impropriety here, Fani. The majority recognized that there are some distinctions from that other case, though, explaining that the case applied a continuum in a motion to disqualify private counsel, where there was an important interest. Here, the public's interest and the defendant's interest in a disinterested prosecutor are aligned. A defendant doesn't want a hack partisan prosecutor, and neither does the public. Generally. Now, Democrats love hack partisan prosecutors. They voted for Fani again. They love that, but the justice system does not. When applying the continuum, these distinctions demanded disqualification of Fani because it's undisputed. The public interest was impacted by this significant appearance of impropriety that was more than just nebulous, telling us a prosecutor occupies a unique role in our justice system. They have to be fair and impartial. They wield their criminal enforcement powers everywhere. And there are good prosecutors out there. I've met a few of them, but a lot of them are not. And there is a subset of prosecutors that also are unwell. Okay. They're just like people, just like the rest of us. And they have, disorders and all sorts of things. And they still have the power to sentence you when they're having a manic episode, okay? And nobody can do anything about it. Anyways, consistent with Young, Roman underscored the important public interest at stake. The majority noted a prosecutor is more responsible than even a normal advocate. And so the continuum did not create a new standard for prosecutors. Fani, it's not new. This application involved a prosecutor, a public prosecutor, which is an aggravating factor here. In the other case, we were talking about private people. You should be held to a higher standard, Fani. Having already moved down the continuum, they said, yeah, no other remedy is going to suffice to restore public confidence here. No bright line rule was created, though. This was rare. It was applied to Fani because she had a covert romantic relationship with Nathan. While under contract, being paid by taxpayer dollars, they concealed their relationship, they stunk up the whole justice system, and they provided untruthful testimony. Disqualification, if they hadn't done those things, probably wouldn't be required. But the majority went through, considered each one of those things, and said, you gotta go. Their other cases are weak. There's a fundamental flaw in their red herring argument. The trial court and the majority opinion emphasized there was a significant appearance of impropriety. It was based on conduct. It was specific conduct, and it's not even disputed. The state's apprehension of a per se rule is unfounded. We're not doing that. Roman's holding is not that a mere appearance of impropriety requires disqualification in all cases. That's not what we're arguing. We're saying in this case, because it's very rare and you have been egregious. Though the petition protests that the majority was conclusory, it's only focused on one paragraph. They didn't read the rest of the decision about how they applied all of this at all. And so because Roman merely applied the continuum, and this involves specific conduct from Fani, this petition involves only the application of a properly stated rule to a case. We're not making anything new up. It's already been in existence. Now here they continue. They say mandatory disqualification of Fani for a significant appearance of impropriety is unlikely to recur. Why? Because no Fani who's ever come before Fani has engaged in such egregious disqualifying conduct before. And it's highly unlikely that any other Fani will ever do so in the future. That's how bad it was. So don't even have to worry about this coming up again. No Georgia court has ever even considered impropriety of this extraordinary magnitude. Look at all these cases they cite. Oh, they went through. They're like, man, can't find anything. Head versus State, bad, but not that bad. Whitworth, no, not that bad. Hodge was a piece of work, but not that bad. Edwards, close. Brown, yeah, but no one, not even Dalton, is Fani level bad. So with no likelihood of recurrence, Roman did not create a novel precedent. It just established law of this case. And rare facts and no likelihood of recurrence means that using that to try to get into the Supreme Court is invalid. It's a relic, and the state cannot have it both ways. If Fani prefers a variable, non-mechanical legal standard, but not so variable as to be materially affected by significant and rare aggravating factors, she can't have it both ways. Now, the petition maintains that an application of the appearance of impropriety shouldn't disqualify Fani. But that's not what they did. This is another red herring, they say. This standard was not applied alone. There was significant appearance and more. Cases cited by Fani in its own petition interpret Blumenfeld to authorize disqualification based on an appearance of impropriety in conjunction with actual impropriety. You wrote it yourself, Fani. So you are citing cases that explain how this works, and then in your writing, you're proposing a different explanation. Just read the cases. The state's citation also do not include the trial court's condemnation of Fani's MLK speech. She gave that racially charged speech at that black church in Atlanta, remember? Why, God? Why are they focused on a black man? Well, because you were having sex with him. That's why. Saying our Supreme Court has held other rules. So in sum, because this rare case is not likely to recur or to provide significant guidance, certiorari should be denied. And you also can't accept this case because you want to say that the lower court abused their discretion. Division 1 found an abuse of discretion based entirely on the facts found by the trial court. And because of the order's findings, they had to fix it. Here, the state, Fani, complains that the majority did not dispute any trial court factual findings. But this petition echoes the dissent, saying that the improper standard was applied. Fani makes the argument that there were no legal error. And so you can't reverse what's already been done. Fani wants McAfee's decision to stay. Because disqualification was the only remedy legally adequate to purge the ongoing impropriety, the majority correctly held that McAfee abused his discretion and was infected by a significant legal error. McAfee got told. And so by finding that significant error, so two things, he now correctly applied the abuse of discretion standard in the Court of Appeals, and so now the Supreme Court can't hear it. They want it to end there. They also say the state is latching on to the dissent, but the dissent is also restricting the abuse of discretion standard, so whether the higher court can hear it or not, to another bright line rule. And so Fani is trying to have it both ways with that. Now, the dissent would reduce the standard to absolute deference, meaning you cannot if the dissent is heard here, Your Honors, you'll never hear another case again, because it just means you defer to whatever the lower court did, saying that McAfee's decision should stand. Now, that dissent argument is predicated on flawed assumptions that no factors other than actual conflict can move the remedy within the continuum. That's not what the case of Blumenfeld said. On the contrary, they described appearance of impropriety as generally the only type of appearance that was not anchored along the continuum at the ends where the decisions for disqualification were mandated. They explained that appearance based on conduct was generally insufficient based on the factors there, but there was more here that tainted this entire prosecution. The public interest here was significant. There was dangers to the defendants. The only choice of counsel interest was the defendant's interest in not having a tainted prosecution. And so absolute deference, meaning you can't reverse McAfee without regard to these factors, usurps your authority in the appellate courts. That's not how Georgia law works. And they're also conflating in the dissent actual impropriety with actual conflict of interest. So they're confused. Although the dissent was correct that the Williams case is a leading criminal case, it was dead wrong to import that analysis here. Heavy reliance on that failed to show the majority's incongruence, and the dissent did not respond to their footnotes. The dissent's attempt to finesse this other case in also falls flat. They didn't cite their analysis here, and they didn't cite their analysis here. A fatal flaw in their argument is assuming that actual conflict of interest and actual impropriety are synonymous. They're not. Actual impropriety refers to the conduct of an attorney, and cases use that differently. So the trial court did not reject the allegations of actual impropriety. That's not what McAfee did. The trial court rejected an actual conflict of interest, not actual impropriety. But its order in several locations found several instances of actual propriety based on her own conduct. McAfee said explicitly, the order noted that Fani's disqualification during the grand jury investigation occurred. Talked about her unprofessional and potentially untruthful, it was, testimony about her clandestine relationship with Wade, her failure to keep any form of verifiable reconciliation for her cash, her campaign finance violations, her efforts with Nathan Wade to hide their relationship with lying affidavits and interrogatories, her racially charged speech. Why, God? And the potentially dishonest and untruthful in-court testimony of Nathan and Fani, all of it labeled an odor of mendacity because it stunk up the building. Now, contrary to the dissent, the trial court's remarks characterized Fani as having a tremendous lapse in judgment. And this wasn't merely a chastising of Fani. It was actual impropriety. They were so impactful that the trial court noted, quote, that this perceived conflict in the reasonable eyes of the public threatens confidence in the legal system itself. And these findings by Fani were not cross-appealed. And so this is the only legal remedy that is going to work. For the foregoing reasons, Trump respectfully requests that Fani's petition to the Georgia Supreme Court be denied. Submitted on the 17th day of January by Steve Sadow, Jennifer Little, and Matthew Winchester in a nice filing. So we'll see what the Supreme Court of Georgia does. As it stands, Fani is having a tough time. She's trying to get money, and she's trying to keep her position on the Trump prosecution case. But you remember Ashley Merchant, who said, perhaps Fani Willis should have been more careful with taxpayer funds that were given to her in the past, question. Or maybe she should have permitted the audit of her office, huh? Or maybe not told the Fulton County Board of Commissioners that they give her a budget and that she can spend it however she sees fit. Because now, according to this news article, Fani is not getting that money. And now she's threatening to sue Fulton County over the budget. Fulton County DA Fani issued a 7-page letter ranting and raving. Through an open records request, they got this letter. Last month, she was threatening to sue the board if my office doesn't get my money now. Fulton County Board of Commissioners are expected to finalize this year's budget and how they're going to allocate $990 million. Willis and other justice officials have been sounding the alarm. We don't have enough money because they gave it all to Nathan. As of the January 8th commissioners meeting, the DA's office will be allocated $39 million. Willis wants an unspecified funding increase that is sufficient to restore the 20% staff reduction she had to make last year. So she's got no money, and she had to get rid of her boyfriend too. So Fani's having a tough time out there, but we'll keep our eye on this. We'll see what the Georgia Supreme Court has to say about it. Thank you for subscribing and joining us as our coverage on this case and all of the other nonsense in Fani land continues. All right, so that's in Georgia. And now, my friends, let's take a look and see what is happening today with Kristi Noem, because she was in session taking questions on the Department of Homeland Security. Trump's DHS nominee, Kristi Noem, now in front of the Senate, taking questions and giving us a very nice job review of Alejandro Mayorkas, the current Homeland Security Secretary, who's opened the borders wide open to allow criminals and terrorists to enter our country. She's explaining that in addition to those two categories, there are also murderers, R's, and many other bad people who are being brought in on apps. Here's Kristi.
First of all, thank you, Governor, for being here, for testifying before this committee, and for your service, not just to your state, but to America. 9 years ago today, we met in probably the coldest day I've ever been in my life in Iowa, as you and I were making phone calls and whipping up votes for Republicans in Iowa. My wife, Bridget, who's here, got a chance to meet you. And we left Iowa saying, that person's really going to go far. And here we are 9 years later. You've been an amazing governor, amazing congresswoman, and now you're going to make an even better Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. So I think sometimes in D.C. we tend to complicate things. There is a current Secretary of Homeland Security. So why don't we take this opportunity to do a little job review and compare and contrast him to you. So just if you don't mind, I'll ask you some questions and you can give me an answer. Secretary Mayorkas allowed you said it, just about 400 people on a terror watch list to come into this country illegally. If you were confirmed as Secretary of Homeland Security, how many people on the terror watch list would you allow into this country?
Well, Senator, we would work every single day until we had that number was zero. And if you look at the previous Trump administration over his entire 4 years, in comparison to Joe Biden's number, President Trump, it was 11 that were then removed from the country and face consequences. When you look at the 382 that Joe Biden has let in and the policies continue, is shocking and needs to be changed immediately.
Mayorkas let in about 12,000 murderers. How many would you target to let into this country?
My goal every day would be to have no murderers allowed into this country and our communities.
Mayorkas allowed 16,000 rapists. How many would you target to let in?
Every day I'd work to make sure that there was none let into this country.
He let 600,000, Mayorkas, 600,000 people with criminal convictions. How many would you allow in?
We would work every day to make sure people are safe and that those with criminal convictions are immediately removed.
How many private jets would you have the United States taxpayers have fly into foreign countries to pick up people to bring them here?
Yeah, Senator, we will no longer be undertaking that mission at the Department of Homeland Security.
So not 700,000 individuals on private jets over the last 4 years. You would not have any.
No, I'll be working with President Trump to put in place his agenda in adherence to our federal laws.
And how many illegals will you plan to house in luxury hotel rooms in Manhattan at a cost of $6,000 per month?
Sir, clearly, Senator, during this election, the American people said they did not support that and that that would not be a part of this new administration.
How about sex change operations for illegals? How many of those would you suspect you would fund?
Senator, I believe that the Department of Homeland Security will be reevaluating its mission in this country to not allow that going forward under President Trump's goals.
And if you had an illegal migrant that was in this country and they committed a crime, would you offer them airfare from one state to another to evade law enforcement?
Sir, I will be following this nation's laws and the Constitution and make sure that all laws are adhered to.
And if you had been the head of the Department of Homeland Security a year or so ago, would you have closed a detention center in Georgia that would have allowed the release of somebody charged with a crime?
Sir, I don't have the specifics to that situation, but certainly that would not be something that I would want to have under my watch.
So just to be clear, Lakem Riley would be alive today if you had been the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Senator, my hope is that that would be true, yes.
Let's switch to another part of the disgraceful immigration laws that Biden and Mayorkas, who objectively, by the way, has been the worst cabinet member ever in the history of the United States of America.
Bad, yeah.
Let's talk about temporary protective status. Temporary being the operative word. Mayorkas and Biden just extended temporary protective status again through 2027. Will you continue to corrupt TPS to allow some sort of open borders agenda? And will you use hot weather of 80 degrees and sunny beaches in El Salvador as a reason why people have to stay in America and not safely return?
Yeah, Senator, this program has been abused and manipulated by the Biden administration, and that will no longer be allowed to allow that and these extensions going forward the way that they are. The program was intended to be temporary, and this extension of over 600,000 Venezuelans as well is alarming when you look at what we've seen in different states, including Colorado, with gangs doing damage and harming the individuals and the people that live there.
And in terms of our border, like the physical border, I've been there many times, you've been there many times. Who should be in charge? Who should have operational control of our border? The United States government or the Mexican drug cartels?
Oh, Senator, the United States needs to control our borders and secure them.
So if this were a job interview in the private sector, and you had somebody like Alejandro Mayorkas in charge, and we had the opportunity to upgrade to you, this would be the greatest upgrade in history of the United States of America. But I'm going to end my time with a startling statistic and actually a challenge to the Democrat Party. When Mayorkas was confirmed, every single Democrat voted to confirm him, and 6 Republicans joined all 50 Democrats in that confirmation. If we get to the vote, and hopefully, Chairman, we could do that Monday, because we cannot wait one single day without you being in charge of that department. We should have 100%, 100 senators vote for your confirmation. This will be the litmus test, in my mind, as to whether we have a Democrat Party that's actually serious about doing bipartisan things like securing this country and protecting our citizens. Any Democrat that voted for Mayorkas that does not vote for you should be in front of their voters and removed from office. Thank you for serving, Brian. Thank you for being here, for putting up with the nonsense that you guys have had to put up with over the years. You are going to make an amazing Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you for being here.
All right, and I do hope that she is confirmed very, very quickly. They take a full vote on her because we want Trump to have his people in place from day one. Colin Rugg clipped this one for us. You can see Alejandro Mayorkas is now out trying to repair his reputation. And you can see he's telling us that now he's trying to throw Biden's inner circle under the bus, saying, oh, I was just following orders. I was just doing whatever the president directed me to do. Yeah, right. Joe Biden didn't know anything. These people were all being controlled by other forces, and now they're realizing they were not able to commandeer the country away from the American people, so they're trying to repair their images. Here's Alejandro.
Secretary, do you not, I mean, put the politics of the election aside if you want. Do you not look at the immigration issue in this country and what has transpired over the last 4 years, given the number of people coming into this country illegally, given the firestorm that this has created, the national dialogue about it, given some of the efforts, frankly, by the administration, especially early on, to be more lenient than they had been? Do you think none of those things, if you could go back, you would do differently?
Look, Andrew, yes, and you have to understand something, and this is not specific to government, but to any large organization, including a government administration. People have different views on what the correct policies should be, what the correct operational measures should be. Those disagreements, those different views are voiced, decisions are made, and then everyone marches in unity together. That is the nature of a large organization, and the government is no different.
But just so I'm clear, that are you suggesting your own personal views about how to operate this were at odds, or there was a distinction between your personal approach and how you would have wanted to do it and how maybe your bosses wanted to do it?
I don't want to get into the deliberative process. We're one team and it's one effort, but this is not a revolutionary concept that there are disparate views when one has many people involved in the decision-making process.
That guy is really something else. So, well, I can't tell you about what my bosses told me to do, but I just followed orders like a good little Nazi who just lets in a bunch of foreigners into our country. and then tries to run away like he had no responsibility in it at all. So that's Mayorkas. We also have another fun one from Tom Homan, incoming border czar, who is explaining to us that those 340,000 missing kids are a big problem, and he's going to get to the bottom of it.
I haven't decided we're going to do it or not, but I said it's something that may be on the table. And why? Because exactly what you just said. Look, under the Trump administration, we did DNA testing, and one pilot, I think it was El Paso, we found almost 1/3 of the families weren't even families. These children were victims of trafficking.
Sick.
And look, this administration lost over 340,000 children that were smuggled in this country, released to unvetted sponsors, now they can't find. We know for a fact some of these families aren't families. We've proven that. So but family residential centers are built for families. They're not jails. They're not hardware, concertina ware. They're built for families. And one of the reasons we're considering doing that is so we can do DNA testing, so we can do a deep dive investigation, make sure that family's a family and that child is not a victim of trafficking. This is about saving children.
Yeah, that makes sense. 300,000 missing children at least right now under Joe and Kamala.
Much more than that. And the kids that aren't missing, if 1/3 of them are going into their families, it is a full-blown operation at the southern border. And then you'll hear even some Republicans coming out and be like, what is it with these conspiracy theorists talking about human trafficking and oligarchical pedophiles and all the things? Well, it's stuff like this. Who's running these rings? Who's running these operations? And why is our federal government allowing it to happen? All good questions we hope we get answers to. So we also got one more clip of Noem and our good senator called Ron Johnson in the House. Here's this exchange.
Governor Noem, welcome, and thank you for your willingness to serve. You'll be taking over a massive federal government agency, 240,000 employees. It's probably too massive. I think
too big.
Had I been there back then, I don't think I would have assembled these 22 different agencies in this massive department, but that's what we've got. It's a department that the previous administration, I think, has completely misused. Instead of using Customs and Border Protection to do that, to protect our border and secure it, they've utilized those resources to incentivize a massive influx of illegal immigration. Instead of using the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency to do that, they instead engaged in mission creep and utilized it to censor Americans with the Misinformation Board. I am concerned about disaster relief, just federal disaster relief in general, creating greater and greater and increasing levels of moral hazard, resulting in higher costs of these disasters. So let's cover each one of those kind of in order. How do you gain control over a massive agency whose resources and personnel have been misused? I mean, how do you root out those individuals who, instead of securing our border, opened it up and facilitated this?
Purge them.
Well, Senator, this has been a big topic of conversation in most of the meetings that I've had with the members of this committee was how do we fix this agency, which the reputation is that it's broken and dysfunctional. I think that was the question I get asked the most is why would you want to head up such a dysfunctional department? And I would say that because the mission of the department is to secure the homeland and our people, it's our biggest vulnerability right now. And we have a president that's not enforcing the law. And I don't believe the law should be unequally applied. Everyone wants to be subject to our laws, and a nation without laws and without borders is not a nation at all. So I will work by ensuring one of the things that Senator Ernst talked about, people have to show up for work. I think there's going to be a majority of people who don't have their primary mission to secure the homeland, that if they don't want to show up for work, then maybe they're just not truly passionate about protecting America. I think they need to do that, and they need to recognize what their job is. The morale in DHS is very low. I'm going to let people do their jobs. I'm going to remind them what their jobs are. Some of these Border Patrol agents haven't been able to do their jobs for a very long time. They've been processing paperwork and facilitating an invasion when they should be back securing our border, which is why they were recruited and wanted to serve there to begin with. We're going to build partnerships with local law enforcement, with ICE and task forces. So we're communicating again with local sheriffs and mayors and law enforcement to partner together. When you talk about the fact that this is such a broken and agency that needs so much improvement, a lot of it goes back to why were we created and are we fulfilling that mission and making sure that these individuals are getting back on task.
So under my chairmanship and under the Trump administration, we did rename a part of DHS, the Cybersecurity Information Security Agency. I in no way, shape, or form ever contemplated that the sub-agency within DHS that was really focused on securing us against the cyber threats and other threats to our infrastructure would ever be used to violate the Constitution the way it was used to violate the Constitution under the Biden administration. This administration has been completely opaque. We do not have the information to know and the communication in terms of what all happened here. So my question relates to how they misused CISA. Will you commit to providing the transparency, providing the information, investigate it yourself, but provide this committee, my subcommittee, the information to expose the truth to the American public, but even more importantly, propose a piece of legislation based on our investigation, based on those results, to fix it so that no administration can ever misuse the language of the law to commit that kind of unconstitutional act and violate people's First Amendment rights.
Yeah, Senator, I look forward to working with you on that. And I think what we saw during the COVID pandemic, the actions of CISA, their misinformation and disinformation campaign, the materials they were putting out was shocking. Shocking at what they were doing to decide what was truth, what wasn't, and how they were trying to manipulate the American people. We saw it in elections and Russia influence as well. And so ensuring that they can't do that in the future under any administration would be a priority, that they stay doing what they're supposed to do and hardening our systems and working with local officials to do that is a priority. And I'd look forward to working with you on legislation should you wish to rein them in.
So the first step in that process is to expose the truth, to find out who these bad actors were, expose who they were, hold them accountable. I mean, that is crucial that we take that first step. So again, look forward to working with you on that. You know, the tragedy of the California fires, the more we learn, the more we understand that not only was it predictable, it was predicted, which means it was preventable. Again, you're not going to be, you can't prevent the initiation of those fires, but you certainly prevent them from raging into the tragedy that they became, the dozens of people who've lost their lives, the hundreds of billions of dollars worth of property damage. It's not just California, though. I mean, again, that was grotesque mismanagement.
The whole country
that could have been prevented. You can't prevent a hurricane.
Joe Biden.
You can't prevent floods. But you certainly can try and start reducing the moral hazard that we've allowed to explode, quite honestly, by the federal government rushing in immediately, no questions asked, just tell us how big a check you want. What can you do in your new role to try and start reducing over time the moral hazard that we have created in this country with federal disaster relief?
Well, Senator, emergencies and disasters are always locally led. They're led by the local communities and leaders, and that's because they're much more responsive and much better informed on how to bring relief and to get those emergency services there to meet the need. Then it's state supported and federally resourced. Which means that when we come in, that we're supporting what the mission is, what those emergency operations and plans are that the local city and county and then also the state has implemented and do what we can to fulfill the mission of our programs. One of the things that FEMA's not doing today that I think we should be doing is streamlining communications. We saw this in New Orleans. We saw it in other terrorist attacks in the country. And you just referenced it as well about the American people not getting the truth, senators not getting the truth and the transparency that we need, is that I believe FEMA can always put out a blueprint for what a response would be should something terrible happen. And when we look at the Secret Service, what happened in Butler, we saw that communication was an issue, that the Secret Service wasn't communicating and balls were getting dropped with local authorities, local law enforcement, and we can put forward a blueprint for how communication can happen and be streamlined between the federal government, the state, and the local entities, so that should something happen, this is how we talk to each other, to make sure that the public has the facts, they're not getting misinformation, which happened with the New Orleans terror attack just recently, but also up in Pennsylvania as well. That blueprint is what we do at the state level that FEMA has failed to do, to proactively educate the public on what everybody's roles are, what we do should something happen, whether it be a natural disaster or a terrorist attack or an emergency response is needed, that we can put out those blueprints ahead of time, educate people, train those local entities, which they currently do to a certain extent today, but not good enough to really know that not only can the resources be pre-deployed in many of these situations so that they're more readily accessible, but also how are we going to communicate and make sure everybody's on the same page so that we can be much more efficient. I wish that we would have had different leadership and a different governor in California, or we might have a different result there. But in the Department of Homeland Security, we can do all that we can to make sure that the people that live in California know that they're going to get a response from the federal government that's appropriate. And we did all that we could to make sure that they had the information ahead of time so they could protect themselves when they do have a failure in leadership like we've seen.
Kristi Noem. So Trump's Homeland Security Secretary nominee doing well in front of the Senate today. We'll see how quickly she can get confirmed. But good takes on what needs to happen at the border. And quite frankly, we are all California under Joe Biden and Democrat leadership. They have done what they've done to California, to all of us. We just don't see it engulfed in flames, visual flames. They're metaphorical flames. We see it happening all over the place, coming to an end in 3 short days. But it still is that type of leadership. Okay, there are tons of Gavin Newsoms, right? Mayorkas is Gavin Newsom. He's just less communicative, right? They're all of the same ilk. They're all cut from the same cloth. So now we're going to get some recourse on January 20th. Soon as Trump is sworn in, Kristi Noem right behind him. We're waiting for Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation hearings. We're going to be covering those. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends, it's a beautiful Friday. If you're just joining us, we covered some inauguration news and about how dang cold it's going to be. And so bundle up if you're going to the inauguration in D.C. If you want to come and join us, we're going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona, live in person, starting at 9 a.m. in Scottsdale. Grab your tickets, watchyourlodge.com. And we'd love to see you. We also have digital tickets now that if you want to join and just watch what's happening and mix and mingle with some other people in a Zoom-like setting, grab your digital pass and we'll celebrate together. It's going to be a ton of fun. Now on Monday, we are going to be streaming here, but it will just be for a portion of Trump's inauguration, swearing in, and his speech, and then we'll call it a day. But if you get that digital pass, then we can hang out and you can actually turn your camera on and talk to some folks. So it'll be fun. We want to celebrate. We hope you're celebrating. If you're not doing anything, if you're just staying home, hopefully you're enjoying the inauguration and the victory, because we worked our butts off, all of us, to go vote and to bring everybody that we know to go vote. And so it's time for us to celebrate. And so if you're just joining us, quick recap. Inauguration stuff. We talked about Biden's new made-up 28th Amendment that is not real, according to his own national archivist, who talked about that a month ago. And then we went through a Fani update and saw what Trump's defense team is saying in the Supreme Court of Georgia as Fani fights for survival. And then we jumped in on Homeland Security and Kristi Noem, who took some good questions today in front of the Senate. And so happy Friday, my beautiful friends. I hope your week was outstanding. We had a busy one here, and I was really had a ton of fun with you. Thanks for hanging with us on those extra long streams on the confirmation hearing days. We had Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth today. It was a ton of fun, this week. It was a ton of fun. So, my friends, let's see who is joining us and sending in some amazing donos on the day. Thank you so much for supporting the show. and the work that we do here. I saw a major one come in. Oh my goodness. Look at this. This one came in from this morning, and let's get caught up. Where are we now? Here we are. Oh yeah, it's Nicolas Cage in that one movie called Con Air. Great film. Feel that? Feel that, my friends? That's Friday. Nick Cage in the house. Con Air. It's a good movie. Need to watch that again. Glocky says, hey, good thing they moved the inauguration inside. I saw this from Roz Alerts. Is this confirmed? Roz Alerts posted this. More than half a dozen local police departments are refusing to assist with the inauguration. And I don't know where that's sourced from, but they better figure that out because that's happening on Monday. Former LEO on our local says, looks like CNN just got their butt kicked again. Found liable, all counts, now going to the second phase, which is to set damages. I saw that story today, and I want to see how much punitive damages are, because hopefully they're taking punitive damages right out of their booties. Ravicus says, North Dakota forecast, dangerously cold, cover your exposed skin, wind chill as low as minus 35, frostbite in less than 10 minutes. You're frozen. That's dangerous, man. Like, Arizona gets hot. But even if it's 120 out, which it's gotten to, you don't die in 10 minutes. You feel like you're going to die in 10 minutes, but your skin doesn't melt off. Yeah, it feels like it, though. But that's cold. That's cold. Be safe out there, my friends. Be safe. Hey, Marion Carey in the house. Great to see you, Marion. Hey, Membos, tomorrow we'll be doing our members-only morning stream, Saturday morning. Membos on YouTube and Locals. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Crash says, Crash to contrary on Locals. To quote my dad, said, it's going to be colder than a well digger's booty in the Klondike. Wow. It's going to be colder than a well digger's booty in the Klondike. That's true enough, Dad. True enough. That's cold. Because you're like all the way down in a well in the Klondike. And what's that, like Alaska? Hey, Mo Mooney says, many said it would be a cold day in hell that Trump is president again. Does this count? Love it. Yeah, I think it does. Cold day. Check. DC is hell. So hell has frozen over. I saw that from Free State Will on X. He said, well, hell froze over or yeah, something like that. It's pretty funny. Good to see you, Mo Mooney. Funny. Yeah. Cold day in hell. It's funny. Hey, what's up? Stop the China fraud said it is the, here, Stop the China fraud says, had a breakthrough. Viva interviewed me for 1 hour about the motion for judicial notice in Hunty's Arkansas case 5 years ago, exposing it all. Check your Locals comments from Stop the China Fraud Hustle. Shout out to Viva for having you on and for having what probably was a very good conversation. Awesome. Stop the China Fraud. Uncivil Law says, hey, I heard we have a new constitutional amendment. How exciting. I know. It's amazing, right? I wonder what Joe Biden will do next. Maybe he'll have a constitutional amendment to stop insurrectionists or something. You know, what's he going to do next? Who knows? Thank you, Uncivil Law. Great to see you, brother. Uncivil Law is right next door. Are you subscribed to his channel? Stop the China Fraud Hustle says it is the actual RICO that the deep state covered up. Gaming Punk says it's 2025 and NPCs still believe the CDC. If you're still afraid of a cold, even though 99% of society's back to normal, then you deserve 4 more years of Biden if you are afraid of the cold and many other things. But fortunately, we don't have 4 more years of Biden. We got 4 more years of Trump. Eleanor, look at this. Thank you so much for this extremely generous dono. Eleanor, you're amazing. I'm really grateful for this. Says, many thanks for accurate and entertaining reportage. Praise the Lord for you and our incoming president and all his supporters. Eleanor, well, God bless you back. Thank you for that. I'm really grateful that you're here. That's a monstrous dono in a good way, and I'm really grateful for it. I agree. I think extra prayers over these next few days would be welcomed for the president and for everybody in DC at the inauguration. I know that at times like these, things get a little tense, you know. Even hosting our event in Scottsdale, I'm like, ugh. Not that anything's going to go wrong at our event, but it's like, what if we're all together and something bad happens, you know, in DC or something like that? Don't even want to put it out there because I think it's going to go beautifully well. And America, I think, is on a much better timeline. And we talked about this the day of the assassination when Trump almost got killed. we came on and we all felt that timeline shift, right? Like the whole world shifted. You could feel it in your bones. And so I think that in that new timeline, we are on a righteous path, and we'll continue to pray for that, for the well-being of everybody in DC and around the world during this transition, so that we can just get things going and everybody will be better for it, right? Everybody will be better for it. But I've seen some weird posts and weird stuff and weird statements from Jake Sullivan and stuff. So Eleanor, thank you for sending those mega prayers in and the mega dono. We're really grateful for your support. Just Cause is saying thank you. Shane says thank you. Truth. Crypto Beauty is sending you some love. Mama Rowe says, what an amazing show of support. Thank you, Mama Rowe. Peter Roden saying what's up. Will Crump in the house. And Jan20 saying thank you to Eleanor. Eleanor, really thank you very much for supporting us. Couldn't do any of this without you, and I'm grateful for your contribution. Have a wonderful inauguration, Eleanor. Glocky says, here's this. Breaking. Only members of Congress and the Senate will be allowed in the rotunda for Trump's swearing in. Wow. You know, that's a bummer, man, for our friends that are going. Okay, like everybody's going. What about all the people in the mall? What are they going to see? That's a real bummer. All right, so that sucks. Glocky says, get ready. We got a new one coming. The Spectator is saying, breaking. The government awards Moderna $590 million to develop a new jab. Great. I'm sure they're going to do a great job. Chubby's here. Says, Biden says, I made an amendment to the Constitution and it's there now. Now. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. What are you doing? Crash says, look, he's in a serious difficulty, okay? So I don't pay attention to him anymore. But clapping seals in the crowd, have mercy. They surely don't believe in just that he just amended the Constitution, do they? Sua sponte on his own? Joe, take a break. You got to go. Take a break. Get out of here. From Crash. Thank you, Crash. Beautiful comment. Rick Donner says, as we speak, Ferret Garland, that's a funny name, Ferret Garland instead of Merrick, kind of sounds the same, that's why it's funny, is exiting the DOJ building for the last time. And look at all these little reporters, how excited they are. Oh, here he is. Here comes Merrick Garland. His last day. It's Friday. And he's going to be leaving. You're cheering this dude who wrecked the DOJ? Who are these people? Oh, Merrick. You wrecked the whole Department of Justice. You should be ashamed of yourself. And everybody clapping for him is so in a bubble that they don't even realize what they're doing. If they work at the DOJ, if these are all DOJ employees, this man is more responsible for the country and the world, thinking that they are laughingstocks, thinking that anybody at the DOJ is a joke and a sheep and a corrupt hack and maybe even a criminal who should be prosecuted and jailed. Who is responsible for that? All of it? Merrick Garland and Joe Biden. And these SEALs are clapping as he's leaving the office. Okay, bye. Good riddance, Merrick. Don't go too far. Let us know if you're going to leave the country, okay? Because we've got some questions for you. Thank you for that one, Rick. Hey, Mike Gulick. We only have 67 likes on this show. Hopefully we can bump those numbers up. We got to get those numbers up. Thank you, Mike, for mentioning that. Hey, Katania Nana says, Bondi says special prosecutors don't need Senate confirmation. Yeah, I noticed that, Katania. And maybe she'll use that to go after the Democrats. No, just hire me. I'm not a U.S. attorney. Doesn't matter. I'm ready for the job. Put me in, coach. Thank you, Katania. Crash to Contrary says, I want to make a trip to Scottsdale, but it's not in the cards. So I registered for the digital version at the $50 level, which I understood to be enough for myself and for others. So feel free to register for others of your choice with the balance. If not, tell me what it takes and I'll cough up. Love you, brother. From Crash. Thank you, Crash. So when you buy a digital pass, the ticket for the digital pass is $10, but you can buy more because some people also want to pay it forward to other people who can't afford a ticket. And so thank you, Crash. We're scholarshiping people in for digital passes. We haven't done it yet because I just started it, but we'll definitely do that. And some people are not going to be able to come to the event in person. So some people like Bonnie, for example, has already bought a ticket, but now she cannot make it. So she said, can you give that ticket away for me? And I said, absolutely. And I did that because someone else said, I can't come, or I can't afford to come. And I said, well, good news. So we're facilitating people. Crash, you're contributing to that. Thanks for making it happen. These events are very expensive to put on. It's always a shock every time, but it's worth it. We all deserve it because we're all winners. Hey, what's up, Glocky? Says all these people clapping, crying, and cheering for him need to be fired. Every single one needs to be unemployed 1 minute after Trump is sworn in. I'm with it. I'm with you on that. Yeah, we should get names of everybody. And Pam Bondi can come in. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. Just send a mass email to everybody. Hey, what's up? Thank you, Eric Doherty, for flagging that. Rick Donner says, now Janet Yellen is walking out of the Treasury for the last time. Wonder if she remembered to pack her magic mushrooms from China. She got hacked today, I think, right? Or recently. The Chinese probably have all of her bonus torso photos. Sheila Lucas says, smash that like button. Thank you, Sheila, for reminding everybody to do us that nice favor and hit that button. Dennis Petit says, OMG, Brandon just unconstitutionally decreed a 28th Amendment? Yeah, now. LOL. The ERA? Can we impeach him now? Love you, Rob. We should just impeach him. All right, we've had enough. We got 3 days to go. You're impeached. Robert Sponseller. What's up, Robert? Thanks for becoming a membo, brother. We'll see you in the morning for our members only stream. Ray Rock, also membo, 15 months, coming up on 2 babies. Thank you, Ray. Says following orders was invalidated at Nuremberg. Unless you're Mayorkas, who acted like a murderer of America. Mrs. T. Rush in the house says, I graduated in 1979 and supported the ERA. It failed to pass way back then. Good grief. Well, Joe probably thinks he's in 1979. That's why. It's like, we just got it done. Like, Joe, it's 2024, dude. Where you been? Glocky says, okay, so Mayorkas decided to pledge allegiance to his bosses instead of the Constitution. Interesting. I know what the end result for him would have been at Nuremberg, using this excuse from Glocky. Pinochet's helicopter tour is the most exciting helicopter tour you've ever been on. Mayorkas says Mayorkas needs to have his passport seized, and Mayorkas will forever be impeached by Congress. That's true, Pinochet. That is true. He did get impeached, and then the corrupt Senate never had a trial on him because they're corrupt. This old guy says Mayorkas completely missed the fact that I was just following orders did not go well for the Nazis over at Nuremberg. No, he didn't get that memo, but he is acting like a good little Nazi. Hey, your death confirmed. Your death angel. Sorry, I was reading 2 comments simultaneously. Welcome as our newest supporter, your death angel. Uh-oh. I'm not so sure I want you as a supporter. What are you coming to tell us? Hey, just kidding. Rick Donner says, yes, it's confirmed. President Trump posted on Truth about it. And what were we referencing there? Oh, Janet Yellen, magic mushrooms. What's up, Rick D? Dove7 says, you are very informative. I enjoy watching the hearings. Well, thank you, Dove7. We try to jam pack a bunch of stuff in here. We try to have higher information density than other shows. More information per minute than other shows. That's part of our goal. Sua Sponte, what's up? Sua sponte means of one's own accord. You often hear this in the courts where a judge will sua sponte on their own demand something. Rick D shared this. Yes. Rick saying that Trump confirmed they're going to have to go indoors because it's going to be cold as cold can be. Voice says, if he's impeached, then he can be tried for presidential acts. Don't think he would live to see a verdict, though. Dude is already looking like a cadaver. He is looking rough, man. And people are noticing his face and whether it's clone Biden or what. I don't know what's going on with Joe. Black Dragon. What's up, Black Dragon? Flaming Black Dragon? Can't wait for true justice in America now. You and me both, Black Dragon. It's been a long time. Thanks for being here for 7 months, 2 months. We got full term. Tony Hay Munkets is bringing in 5 new membos, which will be fun. Membos, grab the stream from this morning, and we'll see you tomorrow on our Saturday show. Tony Hay Munkets is bringing in Brewholic 101. We got Mark Gangler, Nikki Moore is here, Rebecca Koja, and CK1, the only one. Gifted membos courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Tony Hay, you rock. What's going on? We got Jeff Poor says, finally, Maybe a little freedom. I'm with you on that, Jeff. We've been hungry for some freedom and liberty and competence in America, and we're just days away from that happening. Jan 20 says, Jan 20. Enough said. Don't need to say anything else about it. And that's coming up very soon, 3 days from now. And I'm excited for it. Jan 20. Thank you for saying Jan 20. I'm as excited as you are. And my friends, thanks for sending those in. Very appreciative of your support. And glad that you're joining us as we round out the week on this Friday. Let's see who's on X. And then we'll wrap it up and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. Here is, sometimes paintings change, like in those haunted mansions. Here's what happened at the White House today. Womp. Joe Biden's leaving the White House. Womp. George Washington, courtesy of James Pepper. George Washington giving Biden the old bird. Hey, what's up? Mini Tika's over there. CF Rob is talking. Says, Rob, here's a poll. If you guys want to vote on this poll, follow CF Rob and take a look at that poll. We've got Rob also sharing screaming liberal person who's screaming at the skies. Remember her? Oh, we're looking forward to that one. When that one comes down, we know we're going to hear from them again at some point. And Fred says, if every Watching the Watchers would like to see the most disgusting, nasty human being, watch the Senate confirmation of Colleen Shogun, the current National Archives director. OMG, says Fred. She rough? She bad over there? Colleen Shogun. Yeah. Sounds terrible. All right. So good to see everybody on X. Just Rhonda, who is our purveyor of fine emojis, says Young versus CNN was settled for punitive damages, so we won't get to know the amount. Oh, you're kidding. Just hit that CNN reached a settlement for an undisclosed amount in punitive damages in defamation case against jury awarded to Young, $4 million in actual, and an expert suggested $150 million in punitives. I'm sure it's not $150 million in punitives, but I'm sure the settlement is much, much less than that. But man, that guy got paid and he deserved it. So good for him for going after lying fake news CNN. And we're glad that he was victorious. They shouldn't smear and lie to people. So, like they did with that guy. So, my friends, he is getting $5 million in damages. All right, so double check the numbers. I don't know what the numbers are, but he's getting paid. He's getting millions, and that's good because CNN lies about people, and they do it with actual malice for intentional gain. Now they can't play that game anymore. So, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. We are now going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com to hang out and debrief on Locals. We'd love to have you come over there and join us. One final plug this week. Inauguration watch party happening on Monday. We want to make sure you're celebrating somewhere. And if you're in Scottsdale, Arizona or nearby, we want to come see you. Grab a ticket, watchyourlodge.com. We're going to have brunch. We're going to have photos. We're going to have a huge, gigantic video screen. We're going to have amazing people and some guests there, and it's going to be fun. So come hang out with us for the inauguration on Monday. It's going to be great. Get your tickets, watchyourlodge.com. Get your digital pass if you want to join in a Zoom-like setting and be a part of it. Tickets in the description below. And I'm excited for Monday, if you cannot tell. Now, I also want to thank our mods and our meme smiths. K-Bean, Donut, Carrie B, Playin' Hooky, Dog Digger, Janek, Gigum memes it up for us. And our purveyor of fine emojis, Just Rhonda, also in the house. We're grateful for everybody who helps keep this show on track and makes everything happen here. But we are going to be done here for the day. Membos, we'll see you tomorrow on the Saturday stream. Looking forward to that one. Otherwise, my friends, it has been a heck of a week. Our final Friday before our new president takes office, and we couldn't be more excited for that and grateful for it. So we'll pause here for the weekend, and we'll restore our energy tanks and rejuvenate our spirits so that on Monday, when it is time for the swearing in, we are roaring and ready to go. My friends, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to wish you an amazing weekend. We'll be back on Monday to get into it again. And so, in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together With your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here on Monday, Inauguration Day. Make it a great weekend, my friends. Bye-bye.